Everybody is a supplier. Epstein, Weinstein, like these guys knew what these extremists liked and provided.
For years, many people brushed off Katt Williams' comments as nothing more than outrageous entertainment. Critics claimed he was exaggerating, chasing headlines, or simply stirring controversy. But as more information connected to Jeffrey Epstein became public, some of Katt's past remarks suddenly didn't seem so easy to ignore anymore.
This is why those one world people exist, because it's a very powerful concept to have and far too lucrative and beneficial to not be attempted.
That shift in perception is exactly why his comments continue to resurface today. Long before court filings, flight logs, and witness statements became major headlines, Katt was questioning whether powerful figures were hiding more than the public realized. At the time, most people laughed it off. But once Epstein's network became one of the biggest scandals in recent history, those old warnings started attracting new attention. What made the situation even more intriguing was the growing focus on the people who surrounded Epstein. As more records surfaced, public scrutiny expanded beyond Epstein himself and onto the influential names connected to him. And among those names, a few stood out more than the rest.
The battle that's going on is people who profit from the manipulation of others by getting you to believe something that's not the case. And that's how they make their living. And it is now a difficult time for those entities.
One of the first names to dominate the conversation was Donald Trump. Their association dated back decades to a time when both men moved within elite social circles in New York and Palm Beach. Over the years, photographs, party footage, interviews, and flight records fueled endless debate about the nature of their relationship. As questions continued to grow, old interviews and previously overlooked footage began resurfacing. The public started revisiting comments, photographs, and documented interactions that many had forgotten about, creating even more discussion about how closely the two men were connected.
Epstein-like characters have existed throughout history. Everybody is a supplier. Epstein, Weinstein, like these guys knew what these extremists liked and provided it. To have $1 billion and not create a fantasy island type environment has not existed throughout history.
Those past connections became even more significant after Epstein's arrest. Suddenly, every public interaction and every old photograph was being examined through a completely different lens.
From 1992 shows the president with Epstein at a Mar-a-Lago party.
Epstein actually attended Donald Trump's wedding to Marla Maples.
Between 1993 and 1997, flight logs released in the trial of Epstein's now convicted associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, show Mr. Trump flew on Epstein's plane multiple times.
This video has never been seen before in this context. It shows Trump talking to Jeffrey Epstein just before models hit the runway at the Victoria's Secret fashion show in New York in 1999.
In 2002, Mr. Trump told New York Magazine, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with." Adding, "It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side."
A letter bearing Trump's name, which contains several lines of typewritten text, concludes, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret."
Despite years of speculation, it's important to separate public debate from established facts. No official legal filing or criminal investigation has accused Trump of participating in Epstein's criminal operation, and major news organizations have reported that no direct evidence has linked him to Epstein's crimes. Even so, the discussion never truly disappeared. Questions about their past association continued to generate headlines, and that attention eventually led people to examine another former president whose name repeatedly appeared in Epstein-related records.
How do you know this?
That was supposed to straight.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment.
That brought the spotlight to Bill Clinton. Unlike Trump, Clinton's connection to Epstein was often discussed in relation to international travel, philanthropy, and charitable initiatives. During the late 1990s and early 2000s, both men occupied many of the same circles filled with political leaders, wealthy donors, and influential figures. As investigators, journalists, and researchers dug deeper into those connections, Clinton's relationship with Epstein became another.
We're going to be looking at that and looking at it very closely. We're also going to be signing a big contract in a little while, so we're going to.
Years later, when Epstein's crimes became front-page news around the world, Clinton publicly denied knowing about any criminal behavior and maintained that he had never visited Epstein's private island. Those statements did little to stop the public conversation. Instead, attention soon expanded beyond politics and into the entertainment industry, where another familiar name surfaced.
Running for president, he was running to be the most famous playboy in New York. Jeffrey Epstein becomes part and parcel of Donald Trump's lack of a personal and domestic life. I mean, in a sense, Epstein represents the inverse of that. Epstein would talk about Trump's marriage, actually all of Trump's marriages, with an incredible disdain and haughtiness. Epstein was certainly not going to get married because he was honest about his desires and interests, and Trump was a phony about it, but at the same time maintained the same desires and interests as Epstein. There was a moment I remember Epstein said that Trump complained that Ivana was past her sell-by date, but still wanted to have sex, and that's why he had to stay out of the house.
Well, they get divorced after 14 years.
They have a big fight over their prenup.
And at one point, she accuses him of rape, which she later withdraws that claim.
It was a horrible breakup. I mean, we saw it. I can't help think that it played out because he wanted it to play out this way on the front of the New York tabloids.
What was it in it for him that it played out that way?
Fame.
Just
fame
attention.
He certainly was not running for president. He was running to be the most famous playboy.
The discussion wasn't limited to presidents and political figures. Eventually, attention turned toward Hollywood. Among the celebrities whose names became linked to Epstein-related discussions was Academy Award-winning actor Kevin Spacey. Questions emerged after details of a humanitarian trip became widely known. As records of that journey gained public attention, many people began wondering why so many influential figures had crossed paths with Epstein years before his criminal activities became widely understood.
I didn't really find any Epstein connections to Haiti. There is a lot of weird stuff going on with the Virgin Islands, which is Caribbean too, which is where he had a major presence. But the Clinton Foundation first. So, Clinton and Epstein definitely had a relationship when Clinton was still president, but most of the reporting about it has only been discussed since after Clinton left office and was creating his philanthropy. And a lot of that was directly facilitated or associated with Epstein. So a lot of the flights that Clinton takes with Epstein, for example, you have people like Doug Band, and it was Clinton and Doug Band that were basically creating the Clinton Foundation at that time. They're going on Epstein's plane. They're taking a lot of the early trips that were used to cement and develop key programs of the Clinton Foundations, like the infamous Africa trip and things like that, right? And Clinton ended up crediting Epstein as being sort of the architect of the HIV/AIDS program, which later developed into CHI, the Clinton Health Access Initiative, I think that stands for. And the guy that ran that was also on the plane a lot of the times with Doug Band and Clinton on Epstein's plane, Era Magaziner. And then you have CHI end up working very closely with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, another philanthropy of someone who had ties with Epstein going back to the 1990s as well, and then later helping plan out his philanthropy to a considerable degree. So why is someone who's like Epstein tied to eugenics, transhumanism, and all sorts of weird stuff? So basically developed the HIV/AIDS program for the Clinton Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's pretty nuts. And another thing that I found that I thought was really odd, Epstein doesn't have any formal business or organizational presence in Africa, but he was present.
Spacey has repeatedly stated that he was unaware of Epstein's criminal conduct and has denied having any close relationship with either Epstein or Maxwell. Still, photographs and travel records continued fueling public debate. For supporters, those connections proved very little. For critics, they raised additional questions. Either way, the controversy kept growing. But while Spacey's name generated discussion, there was another figure whose association with Epstein produced far more serious allegations and intense scrutiny. That person was Prince Andrew. As details of their friendship became increasingly public, pressure on the British royal only continued to mount.
This picture was taken in Brunei. Anyway, he wanted, when he knew I was coming, yes, they were, I think. I think everybody there was part of our party. It was late at night or late-ish, and I also believe that there was a Secret Service agent.
The controversy surrounding Prince Andrew intensified dramatically after photographs surfaced showing him with Epstein even after Epstein's earlier conviction. For many observers, those images raised difficult questions that demanded answers. Then the situation became even more explosive when allegations emerged claiming that Andrew had been involved in encounters arranged through Epstein's network. Those accusations transformed the story from a controversy into an international scandal.
President Bill Clinton, he features a lot in this dump of images. His association with Epstein is well known, and he is on record expressing his regret at having ever known him. Clinton is photographed in the files with Kevin Spacey, too. There's an image of Mick Jagger with Ghislaine Maxwell. None of these photos have any context to them. We don't know who took them or when they were taken. But remember, they are all part of the Epstein estate.
Prince Andrew consistently denied the allegations and disputed claims made against him. Hoping to address the growing criticism, he eventually agreed to a televised interview that many believed would finally provide clarity. Instead, what followed became one of the most talked about interviews in recent memory.
Online, things on my Twitter account that I had flown to this guy Jeffrey Epstein's island and I had young girls. And I was like, I mean, if you'd asked me in 2015, maybe even if you'd asked me in 2002, did I know a guy named Jeffrey Epstein? I probably would have said no. Well, of course, I have since learned who he is. And I have since been able to go back and find out that the airplane that we flew on for this humanitarian mission was owned by Jeffrey Epstein. And to then learn, oh, he was actually on some of those flights. And this Maxwell woman was on some of those flights. I didn't know him. I've never spent any time with him. I was with the Clinton Foundation people. That's who I was with. Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights?
There were young girls on those flights, yeah.
With the entire world watching, Prince Andrew sat down to publicly explain his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and defend himself against mounting criticism.
Of Sarah Ferguson, ex-wife, of course, of Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew, and he features too. This is an image of the former prince lying across several women. The only other person identified in this document is Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, we've cross-referenced this photo with other photos, and it was taken at the late Queen's home, Sandringham, in the UK. Of course, Andrew was friends with Epstein and Maxwell. He settled financially out of court with Virginia Giuffre, who had accused him of sexual assault. He's always denied any wrongdoing. Let's focus now on the victims of Epstein and Maxwell's abuse and how their story can be told through these files. Here's an image of two young women, perhaps girls, we can't be sure, in Paris. Their identity has been...
Rather than ending the controversy, the interview generated even more questions. Viewers, journalists, and commentators closely analyzed every answer he gave. As scrutiny intensified, attention focused not only on his friendship with Epstein, but also on his decisions after Epstein's conviction. Those explanations quickly became some of the most heavily debated moments from the interview.
Dance. He is the most hideous dancer I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was horrible, and this guy was sweating all over me. Like, his sweat was like, it was raining basically everywhere, and I was just like, whoa, grossed out from it. But I knew I had to keep him happy because that's what Jeffrey and Ghislaine would expect from me. People on the inside are gonna keep coming up with these ridiculous excuses, like his arm was elongated, or the photo was doctored, or he came to New York to break up with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, come on. I'm calling BS on this, because that's what it is. He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth.
Throughout the interview, Prince Andrew acknowledged visiting Epstein's properties and traveling with him. However, he insisted that he had never witnessed any of the criminal behavior Epstein was accused of. At the same time, Epstein's legal troubles and the allegations brought by multiple accusers continued dominating headlines worldwide, ensuring that the controversy remained impossible to ignore.
He has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming, yes.
Unbecoming? He was a offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Among the most widely discussed accusations were those made by Virginia Giuffre, who alleged that Epstein directed her into encounters with several powerful individuals, including Prince Andrew. Her claims became central to the ongoing public debate and added even more pressure to an already explosive situation.
And I hope he comes clean about it.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady.
The scrutiny intensified further because of a photograph that became one of the most recognizable images associated with the entire scandal.
In that picture, but we can't be certain as to whether or not that's my hand on her, whatever it is, left side.
Following the interview, media outlets across the United Kingdom and beyond were overwhelmingly critical. Headlines described the appearance as a public relations disaster, and many commentators argued that it raised more questions than it answered. The attention then spread beyond Prince Andrew and onto other public figures whose names appeared in records connected to Epstein. Among them was supermodel Naomi Campbell. Although Campbell acknowledged knowing Epstein through social circles and high-profile events, her appearance in discussions surrounding court documents and witness accounts generated another wave of headlines and public speculation. And ultimately, that brings everything back to the argument Katt Williams has been making for years. His claim was never just about one individual. It was about powerful networks, influential relationships, and the idea that people in positions of influence often protect one another behind closed doors. As more records, testimonies, court documents, and interviews continue to emerge, the debate shows no signs of disappearing. Questions remain, new information continues to surface, and the public conversation surrounding who knew what and when they knew it appears far from over.